As you heard, I'm Andrew Baldock, and my chosen topic today is building the family farm. So we're looking at building and retaining multi-generational family businesses. Now firstly, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank my investor grain growers for their ongoing support of Nuffield and just helping provide me with this truly life-changing experience, which I believe has provided the platform for a successful future in agriculture. And thanks especially to your staff for the ongoing support throughout the program. Now a little bit about myself. As you heard, I'm involved in a mixed dryland cropping and sheep operation in partnership with my brother Mark and our parents. And Mark and I are fourth generation farmers in the Kimba district, which is a low rainfall region on the Upper Eyre Peninsula of South Australia. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to say a huge thanks to Mark and my parents for picking up the slack in our farming operation, and a special thanks to my wife Dale for supporting me on this journey and for caring for our kids Lucy and Jack and bringing our latest daughter Grace into this world. It's certainly been a busy couple of years. Now on to my topic. So when I began looking at this topic, I was focused on building the family farm to support multiple siblings joining the business. This was very relevant to me as we'd been working through this for the last 10 years or so. Now, I began with a strong focus on accessing private investment to facilitate growth in land area, as well as looking at diversification and value-adding options. So whilst my studies still had a focus on these aspects of business growth, it didn't take me long to realise that whilst building the business is important, perhaps what was more important is keeping it together. I'll give an example of mum and dad starting out with very little after having split from other family members. They then struggle for 20 years to build a business large enough to support the next generation. The sons come home and build the business further while starting their own family, and creating a comfortable business before once again splitting, and so the cycle continues. I think we've all got a story like this. So for them, economies of scale are lost, overheads are increased, equity levels decrease, and we enter a higher risk business environment. So how do we break the cycle and continue the legacy of family farming? So essentially my findings are focused on two key areas of growing the business and retaining that growth. So as part of my research, I aim to look at what successful, lasting family businesses do differently, as well as looking at innovative approaches to business expansion and succession planning. I looked at a wide array of businesses, from the business-minded families of North America to subsistence farmers, native farmers of Africa. We looked at first-generation empires of Brazilian agriculture to collaboration of once communist-held territory of Eastern Europe. Certainly been an incredible learning experience, of which I'll aim to outline the findings over the course of this presentation. So firstly, looking at opportunities for growth, and I'll start with a quote from Dr. Danny Kleinfeller, professor at Texas A&M University. He states, "Those who want to see their farms continue as full-time businesses beyond the current generation must continue to explore new ways of doing business, and that the possibilities are limited only by our imagination." Now I found this summarise what I found perfectly. There is probably no one solution to this problem, and to be successful in an increasingly competitive marketplace, we need to be innovative and we need to have a range of approaches to expansion. Now, I'd say assessing and understanding the business's available resources should be considered when looking at options for growth. These will include things such as labour units and the skill sets of those workers, current and potential markets for produce, available plant, capital and equipment, looking at environmental assets and so on. So taking time to understand these resources allows us to identify underutilised assets, which may help identifying opportunities for growth through diversification or value adding. The two areas I saw as providing opportunities for farm expansion were collaboration with other landholders and partnering with investors. So collaboration amongst farmers can take many forms, from simple shared equipment purchases to complex joint venture agreements. I see collaboration providing opportunities for growth for family farms looking to expand. An example of this is Carson and Barron Farms, who operate out of Rowley in Iowa. So they began as a small family farm who have partnered with local farmers. These farmers are often in their later years without an apparent successor. So Carson and Barron farms undertake all cropping related activities on a contract basis. The landholder is then offered employment in the business and so forth, gaining all the benefits of a quality large-scale farming operation, and is able to work in a team environment focusing on an area of interest to them. It also provides flexibility for time away from work, often not afforded to owner-operators. Meanwhile, Carson and Barron farms benefit from a stable income stream. They have access to highly skilled workforce and inevitably are able to purchase these parcels of land through private negotiations. This land that they have an in-depth knowledge of, having farmed for a number of years without participating in the risk of production. Now, for this type of arrangement to work, the principles of those involved must align and a one operation approach must be taken. Partnering with investors can provide alternatives to accessing bank finance or traditional lease and share farm agreements. I saw an example of this in the Prairies region of Canada. Grow Partners is a business linking private investors with farm operators. Grow Partners director Bryce Thompson said that generally their investors have a tie to the land of some form, and that investors must be looking for long-term strategies, as short or sporadic investment is not suitable. So when looking for farm operators, he suggests they look for professional operators who utilise modern farming techniques with a sound balance sheet. And they also stress that the farm operator must be willing to engage with the investor and keep them up to date with farming operation. This builds trust and understanding, as well as building pride in their investment. So these types of arrangements varied greatly from straight lease agreements to complex crop share agreements. So as you can see, Carson and Barron and Grow Partners are just a couple of examples of approaches to non-traditional expansion opportunities. Now, after that, I'd suggest that building the empire seems to be the easy bit. The continuation of the business growth through the generations seems to be a much more difficult proposition. The figures show that around 70% of family farms fail to succeed into the third generation, and close to 90% of those falling apart into the fourth. So I feel that we need to look at succession planning and how it's failing family businesses. Traditional approaches to succession focus on the transfer of assets from one generation to the next. They're typically facilitated by the family accountant, and they'll have a strong focus on tax minimalisation and asset protection. So whilst this careful asset transfer management is still a critical component of transition planning, it doesn't address the human element of family succession. Canadian succession advisor Red Chandro suggests that with around 80% of North American farms businesses failing to pass on due to conflict resolution, that we need to talk about the emotions and implement communication strategies. Increasingly, families are turning to succession planning advisors with a focus on the people involved and the systems used to manage a family enterprise. Throughout my travels, I found that the main areas that need addressing from a family farm succession perspective were looking at retaining the next generation of farmers, looking at the management transfer across those generations, putting in place management and communication structures, and looking at understanding ourselves and those around us. So many family-owned businesses have the long-term objective of passing the business on to the next generation. This is often not an easy process. Much planning, preparation and communication is needed in order to move the business from one generation to the next. Attracting and retaining the next generation of farmer is an issue facing the agricultural community. Some approaches that I've found to help with this can include looking at exposing the next generation to a professional business environment and allowing them to participate in business discussions. This will help them to gain an understanding of the business. Also, looking at identifying and understanding their skill sets and interests can help with identifying a pathway into the business. And sharing the family's vision for the business, and most importantly the history of the family and the farm, can help to instil a pride for the business and to have a respect for the values the family holds. So on my travels, I had a book recommended to me called Beating the Midas Curse. It outlines the need for careful management when passing wealth down through the generations and avoiding the wealth being squandered by those who do not understand what it took to earn it. So now on to management transfer. Management transfer is one of the most critical factors for both family harmony and business progression. Often when family members enter the farming business, there is a period of power struggle between the generations, where the incoming member is attempting to make their mark on the business and the father is resisting change. This is sometimes referred to as the decade of dysfunction, where the business growth can be hindered by a lack of clear direction and decision making caused by this period of uncertainty. So clearly defined roles and responsibilities are a key step in facilitating successful management transition. So formalising people's job descriptions, outlining their duties as well as who they report to on a given task, creates accountability and importantly gives a sense of ownership for the roles assigned to them. This ownership is important in keeping people engaged with the business. A number of businesses I visited had broken down the job description of the manager's position, which in most cases was the dad, and had made a clear plan to transfer parts of that job over a number of years to the incoming family members. Allen Farms Partnership, which I visited near Edmonton, Canada, have taken this approach with clearly defined roles. Their structure allows them all to have ownership around their assigned roles, as well as creating accountability for the decisions they make. So formalising these job descriptions can also help to ensure people are working in the best positions to suit their skill sets and interests. Structured meeting processes and open communication channels to engage with all the relevant stakeholders are important. Much of the focus has been around operational meetings such as weekly toolbox, budgeting, planning, etc. While operational meetings are important in keeping finances in check and the business members on task, they don't address the issues concerning the family dynamics. A number of businesses visited and all succession advisors I met with promoted allocating time to meet with all family members attached to the farm to discuss issues such as holidays, working hours, remuneration and housing. By discussing these issues regularly, it reduced the likelihood of concerns of individuals becoming major issues for the family. Many advisors suggest meeting in a neutral venue with an independent facilitator to assist with addressing issues. And an important aspect of unity is understanding ourselves and the differing views and mindsets of those around us. Making time to discuss the aspirations of those around us and to try and understand their view on things will help greatly in promoting a happy work environment. This was a view shared commonly amongst succession advisors and promoted strongly by Canadian advisor Red Chandro. Farm families need to make a deliberate effort to discuss and understand everybody's point of view. Things such as generational differences are important to remember in a family business. So by acknowledging others' points of view and establishing a clear succession pathway, businesses can flourish through a time that is commonly quite dysfunctional. In closing, I'd like to state that family farms need to continue to be innovative in their approach to building the business and require a stronger focus on the human element of succession to retain this growth. Thank you.